Welcome to another episode of Working Title, aka my podcast. This is Keisean Rains, and I am super excited about today's episode for a couple of reasons. One, because today's guest is amazing, as are all of my guests, and I am very particular about the people that I choose to ask to be a part of this podcast. I am choosing people that I feel a sense of genuine connection with. I am choosing people that I feel inspired and empowered and positively impacted by. Today's guest is someone who, every time that I see her, whether it's through her social media posts or things that I, go to, events that I go to, and we happen to be in the same place at the same time, I look at her truly just in awe, and I'm in awe of her because she is such a powerful presence in all of her whole and complete self. She lives her life very much out loud, in your face, outspoken. She's emotional, she's sensitive, she's empowering, she's impactful, she's sexy, she's just all things that I am inspired by when it comes to what femininity actually looks like. And today's conversation is about just that. Our conversation touches on everything from what is femme and what does it look like, what does it mean, what is femme as far as the roles that it plays in relationships, what is femme as far as the roles that it plays in this world, and then just what is femme just to us as two women. And what I like about the conversation is that it gave me an opportunity to get to know myself a little bit deeper. And of course, it gave me an opportunity to get to know her a little bit deeper. So today's guest is Laura Luna, and I cannot wait for you to just hear a snippet of our conversation and hope that you are impacted by it as much as I was. So get comfortable. Take a couple of long, deep, cleansing breaths and get ready for another conversation. Hello there. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being available today. I know it's a holiday and everything. And so, I appreciate you for setting the time aside to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So we are going to dive into just a very casual conversation. You've heard an episode or two of the podcast, so you kind of know the vibe. It's really just me getting the opportunity to kind of sort of interview some people that I know, but in a very non-Oprah-esque type of way. So,
Wait, you mean this isn't going to be like Oprah? That's what I signed up for. Come on.
I mean, this is the un-Oprah. Oprah is definitely one of my biggest influencers as far as the format of her show. I love Super Soul Sunday. I love how she has, a different guest every week, and she kind of asks them basically the same questions, but because she's talking to different people, of course, their answers are different. So it was definitely inspiration for this, including the ideas, opinions, and experiences of other people. And so that, is kind of exciting. So it's Oprah-esque in that sense, but as far as language is free and casual, content is very, across the spectrum as far as what we talk about. So just, feel comfortable in that respect. So we're going to dive in, and I'm going to give you the floor, the mic, and let you introduce yourself to the listeners and share your name, your astrological sign, as many elements of your birth chart as you'd like, and then one of your passions.
Well, my name is Laura Luna. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a Pisces through and through, emo, as all get out. My rising is in Gemini and my moon is in Taurus. And one of my passions is building femme of color community and raising visibility around fat people of color.
Awesome. Pisces, yay, water signs, hey. I'm yes, I am a Cancer, sun sign, Sagittarius moon, and Aquarius. I'm sorry, I'm lying, not Aquarius. A Scorpio ascending is what was happening. I was kind of blending those words into one.
Oh, wow.
But so yeah, like Scorpio, right? So I have like the water, fire, water element going on. And then I did some more diving into my chart, and then I started feeling like I don't know who I am anymore if I go off of this because
right, exactly. Yeah, that's why I try to stick to like one thing, because I feel like once I get into too many things, I start getting overwhelmed, and then I'm like, who am I? I'm having like an existential crisis, like based on this chart, even though I'm sure that, you know, someone out there could like read me to filth, you know, with my whole chart. But I'm like, okay, let me stick to Pisces because I am definitely a very Pisces, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And see, for me is like, I know that I'm a Cancer but a lot of times do feel like there's elements of that, you know, sign that I don't really connect with. And so when I, you know, had my chart done the very first time and I saw like Sagittarius moon, and I'm like, well, Cancers are ruled by the moon. So if my moon is in Sag, that explains a lot about myself, that I was like, is this why I don't really connect with other Cancers the way that most Cancers like, ooh, Cancers, you know, and they're like magnetized towards each other. And I'm like, I mean, you know, y'all all right. But, you know,
yeah, that's
y'all cry
definitely
too
a
much.
Cancer trait for sure.
I always ask guests about their astrological sign because you know, it's just like an area of interest, you know, for me. I think it's kind of cool, you know, to think about like our connection to the planets and the sun and the stars and that kind of piece of it. And then sometimes it does kind of shed light on, you know, elements of a person's personality and the way they show up in the world. And it helps me to be able to sometimes navigate, you know, conversation or relationships with them when I'm aware of, you know, certain, I guess, like stereotypical, you know, elements of their sign, you know, like Pisces are passionate and Pisces are very emotional and, you know, but they're also very loving and loyal and those guys. So I'm like, yeah, I like that. So
are you one of those people that like researches folks like charts when you're dating them? Like before you start dating them?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
that's
it's a thing. No, I know it's a thing.
It's a thing.
So I'm like,
it's a thing. No, I have like an app on my phone.
Yes,
it's 99 cents for me to get their birth chart. So I literally
you better download their birth charts. Okay.
Oh so I'm like, so yeah, okay. So what's your name and your sign, the day and time you were born, and the location? And they're like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, it's just like a background check, you know, it's like an astrological background check.
Oh my god, I love it. I love it. Are there any signs that like you will not date?
You know, I'm getting to the point where I'm saying that I will not date a Libra ever again.
Interesting.
But it's so odd because even saying it out loud, my inner self is like, bitch, you lying.
Oh my god.
Because you know you love Libras.
Right.
But I think what it is that the reason I say that is because I've dated, you know, a lot. Like when I came out about, damn, it's been almost 11 years. That's so crazy. Yeah, I came out 11 years ago. And, you know, I dated of like the full gamut of the astrological, you know, spectrum. And I found that like a couple weeks ago, I was kind of like, a friend was like asking about like my number, like as in like how many partners I'd had. And I was like,
oh my God, that's horrible. Like a body count?
Like
or
a body
like
count.
No,
body count. And this was like,
rude.
Isn't it rude? And granted, this was like the homie. So I was like, okay, girl, only because we friends like that will I even entertain this conversation.
Right.
Because I know it's not coming from a place of judgment and I feel safe here.
Okay.
So I sat down and I was like, let me, okay, hold on. Let me think. And wait, divide by 2 minus 7. And I was like, can we just go with like partners that I dated? Can we stick with that number? Because that sounds a lot better. So anyway, as I was doing that, I looked at like, okay, let me just look at like like actual girlfriends or partners that I've had. Let me look at that. And I realized that I've dated 4 Libras. Out of the last, 11 years that I've been in relationships with women, I've dated 4 Libras. And dated meaning we weren't just sleeping together. We actually did, spend TNF, time not fucking. And we actually, you know what I'm saying? Like Libras. And so I was like, what is that about? And that's the reason I would say. What about you? Is there any astrological sign that you would avoid in dating?
I want to say a Taurus because I feel like, but then again, like, just like you, like, I'm like, you're right, girl. You love them Tauruses. Like, like, it's like the part that you love in the beginning is the part that you hate at the end. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
For me, it's like I love a cocky ass vibe. Like, if you're cocky, I'm like, yes, I'm attracted to that. Yes, I want you to give yourself your tens. But then at the end, when things like don't go as well as the beginning, I'm like, oh no, your ego is out of control. You know what I mean?
Precisely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a Taurus, like love-hate relationship with Tauruses.
Yeah. I feel the same way about Libra. Libras are very charming and they're very...
Oh my God. My best friend is actually a Libra and she's like literally one of the most charming people I know.
Yes.
Ever. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Like my son is a Libra. My dad is a Libra. My sister, Karma, is a Libra. So I've been surrounded by Libras. So they love so like passionately and intensely, with a lot of people though sometimes. So that like love and passion that they show with me, they're like, and this person and this person and that person. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, if I knew that's what we were doing, then I'm fine with it. But it just let me know.
Right.
But, and then I think what I also liked about Libras is, they are an air sign. So there is like that free spirit, that very creative, passionate element of them. And sometimes, like you said, towards the end, it's like, okay, I can't like pin you down in one place, so that was a little bit challenging, but yeah. So anywho, one of the reasons why I asked for you to be a guest is because I've just been impressed and enamored with you from the first time that we met. And I'm just like, who is this magical creature that seems to kind of be a celebrity in my mind?
Oh my God. No.
Because when I met you, it was back at, there was an event in LA and it was like, I want to say it was like a queer femme event when, Kim Milan, is that her name, was a guest speaker and she did like a femme empowerment presentation and I was like taking notes feverishly, like in my notebook, like, oh my God, all this feminine stuff. I had no idea that I could be, I could identify as femme and I don't have to necessarily wear makeup or skirt. Like she blew my mind. Yes. And you were a big facilitator and a big part of that. And I just remember being like, oh, she's responsible for this. Okay. Who is that? How do I know her? And then like, like involvement in like, QPOC spaces and, Dyke LA. And I'm just like, who is this person? So when I got a chance to really like meet you and like spend some time with you and just have like very casual conversations, I was like, Luna's dope as shit. And I follow you on Instagram and I follow you on Facebook and you always educate me when you post most things that you post. Even the Beyonce information is also very valuable. But like, whether it's about like the Latinx community or the femme community or the QPOC community, I always feel like elevated whenever I read any of your content or have conversation with you. So I just want to commend you and affirm you for being who you are and let you know that I see you. And I hope that a lot of other people are seeing you as well.
Thank you. That's so lovely. Yeah, that Kim Milan week, when we flew her out to come do a week's worth of workshops was actually one of my like highlights of my like queer career. That was definitely such an amazing time for us. So, and just having her brilliance and definitely a lot of my knowledge comes from Kim and the amazing work that she does. And she's a new mom now, and just seeing her do workshops and presentations with her beautiful baby literally in tow up on the stage is just everything,
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And yeah. I think what stood out for me too during the one workshop that I got to participate in was just understanding and, like I said, even being enlightened and expanding my idea of what femme actually is, what it means, what it looks like. So my first question for you is, How do you define femme? What does that mean for you? What does that look like for you?
Well, I'm really thankful that you said what does it look like for me, because as a femme person, people ask me that question and they expect me to answer for everybody. But I feel like everybody's journey towards their own personal feminist is definitely a very private and personal one. I mean, some of us choose to make it public by the way that we, interact with folks on like social media or even in real life. But for me, I mean, my feminist has changed and it's evolved even from when I first came out to now, definitely being in this body that's aging. I just turned 40, and I feel like definitely the exterior feminist look has changed. I mean, I used to go out to like queer events and in like nothing less than 5-inch heels, and now I can't do that, But my feminist still stays the same because it's mine, it's inside of me, and it's definitely a power. Especially, I think as femmes of color, we tend to get a lot of power from like I call them four femmes. So like the femmes that came before us, right? And even the folks that might not necessarily know the terminology. So I get a lot of my feminists from like folks like my mom who, only had up to a 3rd grade education in Mexico. But so she wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I'm femme, but definitely there was a lot of things growing up that, showed me like the power of being feminine, and that it wasn't necessarily for the consumption of a masculine person or a masculine presenting person, but definitely taking that power for ourselves. So my femme identity is definitely very sparkly and glittery. And if you like you mentioned my Instagram, like I'm very over the top. But that femme identity might not be for everybody, but it's definitely for me. I mean, if I'm going to an event and I don't have like fake lashes on, I feel naked, and that's part of my personal femme identity. But like I said, it's different for everyone, and I think that's the beauty, right? The fact that like the feminist does not necessarily have to mean woman, or so I think that the fact that like femme identity is now encompassing of so many different genders, which it always has, so many of our cultures have always, identified the fact that there is more than 2 genders, right? So the fact that like, this is not some new shit, now there's a lot of like Tumblr and like Medium posts and all these people that are academics talking about gender, but like this is stuff that was passed down from a lot of our native cultures, and so the fact that it's kind of being talked about again is beautiful, but let's not forget like where that came from,
Like you said, like it's not new shit. I mean, because like if you think of human beings in general, like the stage of evolution that we're at right now, as far as like tribal, cultural, gender influenced, regional influence, all the things that influence who we are, we've been at this state of consciousness for a while. So the idea that, there's only these 2 polar elements of gender identity is, that's indicative of like forced conformity and trying to put people in boxes and things like that. But it seems like the spectrum element that a lot more people are starting to embrace now and acknowledge that, yes, femme is a spectrum, just like even queer is a spectrum, and things like that. That it's not just this is this, that is that. It's either box 1 or box 2, and that's all you can choose from. I like the idea that we, especially like you said, as femmes of color and as queer femmes of color, that we're challenging those boxes, that we're challenging those restrictions and those attempts to conform, because conformity is unnatural for humans in general. I think we come into this world as individuals with unique strands of, DNA that form who we are and our purpose in the world. And to try to shove ourselves into a box, it's uncomfortable. It's traumatizing, in some cases, to try to do that. So I'm excited to be around at this time. I made 40 last year, and I can totally, align with those physical body changes and how they influence my femme. And what's interesting for me is that, you know, as my body is aging and maturing and transforming, I'm feeling more and more comfortable with its quote unquote imperfections.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes, absolutely. I totally feel that. I definitely, that's something that for me, it's like, I've been becoming more comfortable with the imperfections, loving the imperfections, and also loving the process. Like, it was really interesting because yesterday I went to Agape with my roommate, who's like my sister, and she's also a femme of color.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting down eating, like we sat down on the curb eating this food from this like amazing food truck. And then when I got up, my like leg was asleep, so I like couldn't walk. And I was literally holding on to her. I was like, okay, I need to hold on to you, you know? And in that moment, I was like, you know what? This is just like such a beautiful representation of like, as I'm getting older, I'm having to rely and be more vulnerable and rely on the folks around me and be able to like check my ego and be like, okay, girl, you need help, like it's okay to need help and it's okay to ask for that help, and I think that also like within our cultures as people of color, like that is something that we've always, kind of been known for, is that like our families help us, but I think as queer people that we tend to sometimes move from like our families of origin to our chosen families, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
right, exactly. And I think that in and of itself is something that I think is unique to the queer journey is, there are some, and I think that population is still relatively small, but there are some queer folks whose family of origin is still there for them to lean on, is still there to pick them up. There are some, but there's also a lot that don't have that. And it does take time to develop your chosen family. You know what I mean? It takes time to identify who those people are and how they show up for you and if they're going to be around like for the long haul. You know what I mean? Because like, like your family of origin, it's like, okay, we blood. So push comes to shove, I guess I can't actually get rid of you. You know what I'm saying? I guess you can't really go too far. But then when it comes to chosen family, sometimes chosen family starts off as, romantic partners and they become chosen family, or sometimes they start off as just coworkers and they become chosen family. So being able to have that support system is so valuable. And I like that you shared that story because I've had moments like that where I'm like, girl, actually, you know what? Can we slow down a little bit? Because I don't know. Let me adjust my shoes. Because the 5-inch heels, I've never had a relationship with 5-inch heels. With the exception of like not trying to be, but choosing to be a little sex pot, like behind closed doors where I'm leaning against something with the 5-inch heels. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to go very far, honey, but I have them on.
Right. Like, they're not for walking. Okay.
They're not for walking. This is just purely a prop for, to tantalize your temptation. So yes, that's what this is for. But yeah, so I noticed like when I go out now, like, I'm like, okay, what am I going to wear? And what am I going to put on? And like I was saying, like now that my body's going through these transitions, because, I'm a parent, I'm a mother, and my son is 16 years old. And so I look at my body now and I'm like, wow, okay, my body's definitely gone through changes. And I see the evidence of motherhood, in different parts of my body. And I see those parts that I used to feel a lot of shame about and would try to cover or conceal in some kind of way. And like last year for my 40th birthday was the first time that I put on a 2-piece swimsuit since my son was born. Wow. And it was such an amazing experience. I was in Playa del Carmen and I walked out onto the beach and I didn't have a sarong. I didn't have a towel. I didn't have anything covering me. And I was just like, this is happening. And I'm feeling it because I'm feeling myself. You know what I mean? So yeah, like those kind of moments. So do you have a moment that I'm sure you have lots, but do you have a moment that you can think of where you really felt free in your body and free in your femininity and expression through your body?
Yeah, one of the times that I can remember actually really vividly is the last time I went to the Allied Media Conference in Detroit, which was probably maybe 3 to 4 years ago. Wow, it's been that long. They have some nightly parties, and one of the nightly parties they had Las Cafeteras, which is a son jarocho group that's LA based, and I went with a bunch of femmes of color, and I was literally wearing like a mini skirt and I think so it must have been a swimsuit top or some kind of top that was like my belly was out. It was like all, amazing. And because I felt safe in that space, because if you're not aware of the Allied Media Conference, or if the listener is unaware, it's a conference that's mostly all like radical media makers. So it's a bunch of folks that are just all, positive about, like body positive, queer positive, POC positive, like everything. So I felt really safe. Plus I was like rolling with my friends and I ended up like just having such a great time. And I ended up getting pulled onto the stage by the band.
Wow.
So I was literally like dancing in front of everybody. And here I am like in this like mini skirt and like really high crop top. And I was just like living my best life,
I love it.
Yeah,
oh my God. I love
it felt
that.
so good. Yeah.
I love that.
And I was like, oh my God, there's going to be pictures like after after the euphoria. But then once I saw the pictures, I was like, I look so happy.
Right? Yes. Yes. You know what's so funny? Because like you said, when you look back at the pictures, like in the moment, you can't, you see yourself, but you don't see yourself, through the eyes of other people necessarily. And then when you go back and you look at pictures, I felt the same way. I went back and looked at pictures from like this day on the beach last year, and I just looked at my face. I didn't even look at my body. I just looked at my face and I was like, dang, girl, you look happy. Okay, this is what 40 looks like. Okay, cool. Let's do this. Let's do this. And I love that experience that we get to have when we feel, like you said, when we feel safe, when we feel like we have our girls around, we have our femmes around, we're in a safe space, we're in a comfortable space. Because a lot of times when we walk in the world, the world around us is not always safe, doesn't always feel safe. And we, naturally have been kind of conditioned to shield or hide or, conceal to protect ourselves from this world, that we live in. And so how do you find, for someone who may be listening to this, who doesn't necessarily know where to go, how to connect, how to find safe spaces for femmes of color, specifically queer femmes of color? How do you suggest they look for something like that?
I feel like always online. That's where I start. Okay. It's like when I started my journey into really diving deep into my femme of color identity, it was definitely online. So like Tumblr, if you just search the hashtag like femme of color or like, QTPOC, like QTPOC, or also the hashtag that our collective created, which is the Femmes of Color Visibility hashtag. And you look that on either, Instagram or Tumblr or Twitter, you start looking, you start finding the folks who are using the hashtag and just looking at like what beautiful, rich lives that they are leading. And I feel like a lot of the folks that I've connected with, a lot of the femmes that I've connected with that I never thought I'd connect with in real life, I started connecting through those types of sites. So like Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. And then at some point it became up in person if that person was coming to LA, or if, I was going to go to that city, or even folks that are like local to this area. There's folks that definitely weren't part of my particular social circle that I've been able to connect with. And it's just about connecting, like, through a DM, or if you see someone's Instagram story and you're like, yes, I totally resonate with that. It's like starting a conversation with them. And, of course, it's up to them if they want to respond to you or not. That's their prerogative. But mostly what I've noticed is that a lot of folks that I've done that with have been super receptive. And I know that for myself, if I have the capacity to be able to respond to somebody, then I definitely do it. Like, I get messages all the time, and not like, oh, sliding into my DMs, like trying to holler at me.
Right.
Like sometimes that happens, but
Right.
mostly what happens with me is I get like younger femmes who have questions about like identity, or have questions about like, you know, or want to like commiserate about having, you know, a tough day around like, you know, their body, or questions around, you know, being polyamorous, or like things like that. And so, you know, if I can, like, I always try to come from it from a place of, how would, like, if I was the one asking the question as like a baby femme or like a younger femme, what would I have needed from like an older femme who, you know, what type of advice, or what, you know, what could I give that I wish I could have had, you know? Because, you know, when we grew up, or at least when I came out, there wasn't, I had like femme elders, but not really a lot of femme community, because this was pre like Tumblr, Instagram, all that stuff. So we didn't have those spaces, you know? So that's why now it's like so important for me to like try to, even if it's just online space, because I don't really do a lot of events anymore. But I think that that's so important to even have that space online, because we're so connected to technology. I mean, tell me who like leaves their phone at home. So we're so connected that it's created our world to be a little bit smaller. That can be a blessing and a curse at times, but I think it's mostly a blessing.
Right. Like, oh wait, you know her too? Oh damn.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
No, I agree. And thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really valuable information for people to know, because I know that sometimes social media gets a bad rap, you know, for being whatever, toxic or whatever. But I'm like, you know, I heard something the other day, I think it was Gary Vee, this like a motivational speaker guy, who said our cell phones are like the remote control for our world. You know,
that
so it plugs us in, it tunes us in. That's how we find people. That's how we find information. That's how we connect. That's how we communicate. And I think it's cool that someone like yourself recognizes the importance of responding to those messages that you get, like you said, from the baby femmes or the younger, you know, femmes that are looking for that guidance. Because like you said, when I first came out, you know, as in the Black, you know, queer community, I found that a lot of the people that I was connecting with in the community didn't identify as femme. And so my tribe, you know, my queer tribe started off as mostly, you know, mock or masculine of center or masculine identifying women. And so what I discovered when I first came out was, oh, this is how I can be gay, is to be like them. So I started like, you know, mimicking like the style of dress, and, you know, but I was like, well, that doesn't really feel like me. And then on the other end of the spectrum was like the quote unquote lipstick lesbians that we called them back then, you know, where I was like, okay, but again, the 5-inch heels can't do that. So where do I fit? And I swear to you, when I came to that workshop where Kim Milan was speaking, that was one of the first times. That's so crazy. I get all emotional. This is my cancer coming out. That was one of the first, you know, that was one of the first times that I was like, oh, okay, so I can be a femme and still be me, and not have to modify the way that I dress or modify the style of my hair. If I want to wear lipstick and sneakers, I can. Or if I want to wear a baseball cap and a dress, I can. Or if I want to just, you know, walk down the street in a crop top and a mini skirt, I can. And I can still do all of these elements and not have to fit into one of these two boxes. So that was really powerful for me. And I really equate that. When I think of her, I think of you. So
that's so lovely,
because, you know, that was a really big moment for me. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I definitely, like I said, I always give so many props to Kim Milan, because she definitely also like broke open my own, you know, femme identity, and the way that she celebrates hood femmes is just so amazing, because I grew up in the hood and I'm like, yes, this is amazing. Like, hood femmes are the best. Like, like, you know, hood femmes started the trend always, you know, and so, and I think, you know, what's so interesting about what you said about the two, so like the lipstick and the masculine center. And when I first came out, I saw, like, this is so funny. I saw how much, like, game masculine lesbians got,
Girl.
that I was like, I gotta be that.
Yes.
So I literally also had a moment where I was wearing like baggy jeans, and like at that time we called them wife beaters, but the new term is like A-line shirts. But why would I wear them and then wear like a full face of makeup?
Yes, exactly.
But then even while I was wearing that, I was like, that's not me. But I was like, is this the only way I'm going to be able to like get laid?
You know? Thank you. Like, so I have to, so this is like, in my mind, I was like, so this is the uniform, right? This is what I wear, because otherwise ain't nobody gonna give me their number. So
right, because they all think you're straight or something. And I'm like, but you know how sad that it's like society has ingrained that. It's like, it's really rooted in like femphobia, you know?
Yeah, it is.
And I think that, yeah, like definitely, like following Kim Milan's Tumblr and just seeing the way that she celebrates all aspects of femme, you know, is just so beautiful and, you know, so affirming for so many femmes, because I feel like I got that comment so much from folks who went to that workshop. Yeah, it's just like not having to conform to society's, you know, definition of what femme is, and how our gender is so expansive that we get to create that for ourselves, you know?
Right. Yeah, it was a powerful experience, and thank you for sharing that. So I know I'm not alone in our, in our, like you said, the wife beater, baggy jeans, and full makeup experiences. But I look back at those pictures, you know, of that time, and I was looking at them. You could not tell me that I was not the flyest boy on the street.
Exactly.
But getting to this place now at 40, at this, you know, queer femme of color stage of my life, where I'm identifying who I am, it's spilled over into so many different elements of the world that I live in, and the way that I show up in the world, and even the way that I show up in my relationships, you know, because part of my, you know, femme journey to getting to where I am now was also understanding and then rejecting a lot of the gender roles that I felt like I was taking on in my relationships with women, because I was like, okay, so if I'm the femme, then I'm the girl, then I'm the woman. So I guess I'm submissive and you're in charge and I don't have a voice anymore. And that, like, I went down that road. So have you experienced anything like that in your journey, like as a femme?
Well, definitely let's see how to put this.
Okay. And I want to be clear that when I use the term submissive, I mean not in an agreeable sense, you know, me making myself small, not in a consensual. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I feel like I'm definitely, you know, I identify as a pleasure-seeking bottom. So that's my jam. And I'm definitely in the, like, kink world, identify as more of a submissive. But I'm also the type of person that, like, loves planning dates. I've recently, like, in the last probably 7 years have been... well, actually, maybe less than that, like 5 years, have been dating femmes. And which normally I'm like, I was all about masculine, like mask everything. Yeah, and now I'm not like closed off to that, but I'm also like, I think as my own femme journey, like expanded, I felt like, yeah, like, you know, we don't need to have these roles. We can just be like equal partners or, you know, depending on the situation. So I definitely feel like more liberated in that sense. And, yeah, I'm like, I love gifting my dates flowers. Yeah. I love planning dates. Like, I love being like, I'm going to pick you up at this time. Does that work for you? And like, definitely, I think as a femme, the like, does that work for you is so important, because it's like, you need... as a femme, you know that a femme needs time to get ready. Exactly. Especially if they're going out on a date. So I'm definitely the kind that like will be like, okay, like I'm checking in because I know that you have a routine because I know I have a routine. So like,
right.
does this work for you? You know,
Right.
and I think that that's been like, so it's been so beautiful, you know, to be on that particular journey, or even like, yeah, I love the like fluidity of that, but I haven't really dated a masculine person in a while, so like,
right. You're like,
I
it's
feel
been a minute, so
it has.
You know, I was a long-term relationship type person, I should say, even though when I look back at my relationships, it's like I didn't do a lot of dating. You know, I did a like, hi, I love you, let's be together forever.
Oh, you mean like
know,
a U-Haul lesbian?
yeah, like a U-Haul lesbian. Yeah, that was like, oh, that was also in my notebook. Like, this is how to be gay. That's
right,
what
exactly.
this is the way. You wear this uniform, you
Baggy
date,
jeans,
and you marry
A-line
them.
shirts,
Baggy jeans,
right.
A-line shirt, move in on the second date. Got it. I, was following all these rules that apparently was reading the wrong books at the time. But now I'm in that space where, the last, person that I dated, I should say the last, couple of people that I dated would definitely identify as more masc women or doms, depending on where in the country you are as far as terminology goes. And I realized that I, behind closed doors, am definitely also a pleasure-seeking bottom. Thank you for that terminology, because I was like, I don't like the term pillow princess because that makes me sound lazy.
Wait,
because I ain't lazy.
No,
I
first
participate.
of all, you know that I'm so glad you're talking about this, because I feel like when you say bottom, automatically everyone's like giving us a bad rap. And I'm like, do you know how much work it takes to actually be like a good bottom?
Hello.
Like, you know what and no shade to like the pillow princesses, because I know plenty of folks who like identify in that way, but I'm like, no, I am a pleasure seeking bottom, and that means that I'm gonna do whatever it takes
to get mine. Yeah, this does not mean that I'm taking a nap or anything during this
absolutely
experience.
Not. No,
I am definitely an active participant. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I realized that something that I identify with and that I align with as far as my, sexual, experiences. However, I'm also a planner. You know what I mean? I'm also a giver. I'm also, a person who likes to come in, to take care of my partner. I realized that in some of my experiences, I did kind of like hold back in that way, because I'm like, well, let me let them, quote unquote, be in charge of this. Let me let them feel like they're leading. And I realized that a lot of that mindset came from heteronormative gender role expectations. I had to really do some soul searching and some self-reflection to see like, okay, but does that make sense for me? You know what I mean? Because sometimes, no shade, that might work for a lot of women, or, a lot of femmes. That might work for them. That might feel real for them to put on the apron and do the Donna Reed thing. Hey.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I have so many femme friends who are like, their whole aesthetic is like 1950s vintage, and it freaking works for them. And, and it also doesn't mean that they are like submissive in any, some of them are, but definitely I love the ones that I know that it's like on the Instagram streets, they're all like Betty Crocker, but I know from like personal experience that in the sheets,
girl,
that's a whole other
that's a whole nother person. Right. Betty Boop instead. Betty Page, actually.
Right, exactly. Betty Page. Yeah, I love it.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I agree. And I think that's another reason why I think conversations, like this, and representation and visibility is so important, because I think that, for a femme to connect with or identify with or align with submissive, personality or submissive action or submissive, ideas does not make her powerless. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes those two words are assumed to be synonymous when in fact they're not. There's a lot of power in submission, and there's a lot of power in domestication. In a sense, there's a power in providing for your partner in a way that, is unique to you. And I like that. I've been single by choice for about 8 months now. It's a first for me. This is the longest in my adult life that I have been single on purpose.
Wow.
It is the most exciting experience for me, because I'm realizing that in this time of deliberately not dating, I'm starting to get super clear on exactly what it is that I want and how I need to show up for myself in a relationship. I was a person who never really connected with the idea of, polyamory. And I was like, oh, what is that about? And how does that work? But then when I sat with it, girl, in the last 6 or 7 months, and I started journaling and I started meditating and I started getting clear, like, Keisean, actually, you've always been a poly mindset, but you've always been in relationships with people who are monogamous. And that was contributing to that powerless, submissive, small, diminished person that I was showing up in my relationships. And I'm like, no wonder it didn't work. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that a lot because polyamory is becoming, is getting more views in the forefront. I'm glad that you said that you were like reflecting on it and journaling, things like that, because I think that for a lot of queers, they want to be poly because it's the in thing or it's the radical thing or it's the thing. But then once you're actually in the situation, you don't really know how to be poly, or it's not really for you, or you're still like, creeping on the internet. Like, you know what I mean? When it's like, if this is about freedom, then then you shouldn't really be worried about what your person is doing. Or also like, I think that people conflate it, or they'll be like, okay, are we just having sex, or are we, because that's a whole other arrangement. I think people conflate polyamory with dating. With just like dating, because just dating, I think that we're so used to, like you said, like, oh, I'm on the first date, I love you, like, let's move in, right? So we're used to that. We're used to that we're not used to like the actual process of dating, which I think that like straight folks have a little bit more experience with that because they actually date. But it's like, if you are gonna say you're poly or be poly, like, I think that definitely it's something that should be a journey and not just because like everybody's doing it. Exactly. Right. Because I feel like that's where we're at that moment where it's like, yeah, it's great that it's available to everybody, but I feel like, please really like sit with it. And figure out that if it's something that is for you, because it's not a game. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of like, it's a lot of work. So it's kind of like, are you really ready for this or not?
No, I totally agree. And I like that you said that it's like, it's great that it's getting visibility and that it's getting, some level of acceptance, but, like you said, for people who are unsure about it and are like, oh, this is a thing now, so it's okay. It's a thing now. So I can do this, and I should test it out like the new, chicken and waffle spot on the corner. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, this is so trending and I saw it on Yelp and I think we should do it. No, it definitely takes more than that. So my next question for you is, when you show up in your professional job or what you do for work, do you modify your femness in the workplace when you're around heteros and white folks and stuff like that? Or do you show up as you everywhere?
I feel that's such a really great question, actually, because I feel I work in a super corporate environment and I don't feel like I bring my full Laura Luna self, because obviously when I'm there, I have like my government name that is definitely different from my like my like Instagram name or whatever. And I feel like sometimes I feel like I don't want to show up in that big of a way. I feel like I'm like, you know what? I'm here to just do my job and get my paycheck and go home, And I like give 100% while I'm there, but I definitely feel, first of all, I'm going to be 1,000% honest and say that I hate waking up early. So when I'm like, okay, if I have to be at work at 7:45 and I know that it's going to take me an hour and a half to do how I normally do, like if I was going out on a date or like to an event, it's going to take me about an hour and a half to get ready. I'm not waking up at 5 a.m., So they're getting like the bare minimum, like, probably like, my hair pulled back in a bun, like mascara, lipstick, but they're not getting like the false lashes or anything like that, or like the heels. And it's really interesting because when I do show up, because sometimes I'll have an event that's like right after work, so I'll have to like wake up early and come to work like super done up, and my colleagues are just like, what is happening? Who are you? Like, who is this? You know? So yeah, I feel like I don't really do it up as much at work as I do in my like quote unquote normal life.
Yeah. No, that makes sense too. Cause I think like, I have a friend who, you know, she's femme as well. And, you know, she changes her hair and her makeup and her wardrobe all the time. And sometimes she does, like you said, have like something, an event to go to after work, and she'll show up in full form and they're like, whoa. And she's like, yeah, it's still me though. Like I still have the same title. I still know the same shit. Don't assume that I'm any less powerful or intelligent as I was yesterday when I had my hair in a bun. So
exactly.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a shocker, but it's also a way for them to see like, yes, this is also me. You know what I mean? This is also, you know, who I am. And I maybe tone it down because I either A, don't want to get up at 4:00 in the morning, or B, because this is just a hyper corporate environment. And I don't want me to become the center of attention as opposed to the quality of what it is that I'm doing as a job, you know?
Exactly.
So I have 2 more questions for you. One question is, what do you do for self-care?
Oh my goodness, what do I not do for self-care? I feel like
I love it. Yes,
I know
everything is self-care.
Everything is self-care. I mean, I love baths. I love essential oils. I love meditation. I feel like there's definitely folks that are like on my team as far as like I have a really great acupuncturist that I go to about once a month. Shout out to Portia, Deeper Genius Acupuncture.
Oh, I follow her on Instagram.
Oh my goodness, she's literally so amazing. Like I love her so much. Yeah, and then you know I have a chiropractor and a massage therapist that I see about every 3 weeks, and you know I'm thankful that I have the opportunity because of you know having insurance through my job that I'm able to do these things. But sometimes self-care just looks like, I'm going to be honest, like taking an edible or like smoking a bowl or like, you know, having a cocktail with my friends or like, even like allowing others to show up for me in whatever way they can is part of self-care. 'Cause even allowing folks into your circle, into your space, I'm really lucky that I have 2 really amazing roommates who are also femmes of color. So it's like, we really watch out for each other and you know, show up for each other in a really beautiful way. So yeah, yoga. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a thing. I love it. I see Pooja at Everybody Gym about twice a week. So
awesome.
So that's amazing. Yeah, those are some of the that come to my mind.
Okay, I like that. No, I like that, and it's cool that self-care is a priority, you know, for you, and that it's definitely like a keystone of your lifestyle. And I think that's cool, you know, that it's not just like a thing that you sprinkle on from time to time, but it's like, no, this is part of my structure. This is what, you know, kind of keeps me right. So that's pretty dope. Cause I think a lot of times self-care is like, you know, like an afterthought, like dessert, you know, like people have a full meal and they're like, do we want dessert today? Maybe, maybe not. And sometimes that's how they approach self-care. And then they're like, oh, by the time they start practicing it, they don't realize how important it is to sustain positive, healthy, whole, complete self. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. My last question for you, and this is a question that I ask everybody, and everyone has a different answer, which is dope. If you could sit down with your 20-year-old self, what would you say?
I would definitely tell my 20-year-old self to go on more adventures. I would tell her to be more aggressive, but not in a way of like in a mean way, but just, you know, to get what you want. I think I learned that later in life, and I wish I would have learned that sooner. And also that it's okay to say no. You know, I feel that as women, especially women of color, we're just told that we have to say yes to everything in order to get ahead in all ways, right? Like at work, with your family, with your partners, with your friends. But I think there's so much power. You know, was it Oprah that said like no is a complete sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Learning that has been just it saved my sanity and my life, to be honest. So, and then also I would tell my 20-year-old self that community is coming, because I think when I came out when I was 19, and I was definitely, I was living in the Inland Empire, and not, the only kind of queer thing to do there was go to the club. And I loved going to the club. It was fun, but I knew that I wanted more. And I had to move to LA to find that. But, just telling myself like community is coming, I think that would have made me feel a lot better.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And it's like you said, we have those moments of wisdom where we're like, wow, if I knew this then, where would I be? And I think for me, what I tell myself is like, if I didn't go through every experience, adventure, pitfall, and peak, I wouldn't be where I am. To be able to offer that wisdom to anyone else, whether it's, like you said, a baby femme who hits me up on a DM, or someone that I meet, in a community space, to say, hey, let me share a little bit of this with you. So thank you for sharing that with us. So before we go, I want you to let us know how people can find you or connect with you on social media, how to find you.
Yeah, so I have a website, and it's www.xolauraluna, that's LauraLuna.com. And then my favorite platform is Instagram, where you can find me there at Laura, LAURA _Luna, LUNA. So that's the two places where you can find me online.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I know we went like a long time because I feel like I can talk to you forever. But this was really dope. I appreciate everything you shared. Thank you for being so transparent and vulnerable. As always, I feel like I learned something today. I have a new term that I can use. I am a pleasure-seeking bottom. Thank you very much. And I am going to add that to my t-shirt. So
thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast, Keisean, and congratulations on having so many episodes. This is so great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, girl. Well, enjoy the rest of your day off.
Great.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Wow. I feel so good after that conversation. I feel so good just listening to it again. And it takes me back to the day that we actually recorded, and it really puts me back into that space where I had that moment of reflection where I remembered how I felt the first time that I connected with what femme actually means for me, and the way that I express myself through femininity, and the way that I embrace my femininity, and the way that I embrace it as part of who I am. And what I love about the conversation that happened with Laura Luna is that she allowed me the space to express myself. She allowed me the space to be able to witness her expressions. And that's something that I don't know happens a lot with women, and I hope that it does. I hope that it happens more with women, that women or anyone who identifies as female has the opportunity to share space with others who allow them to define and express what femme is for them. I know the world that we live in tries to define everything for us and tries to tell us what is and what isn't, and what femme is and what femme isn't, and what masculinity is and what masculinity isn't. What I know for sure is that the more that we start to facilitate these conversations with each other, and the more that we start to facilitate these conversations outside of our usual circles, the more that we get to start to change the views and change the beliefs and change the ideas of what femme is, what gender expression is, and what it means to just be yourself. What I've learned through this conversation and conversations like this is that there is no one way to be femme, but there is only one way to be me. And there's only one way for you to be you. So I encourage you today to be yourself, to embrace yourself, to express yourself in your femininity and your masculinity, and whatever shows up for you and whatever is real for you. Do that. Do it every day. Find others who will affirm you and encourage you and see you And that is truly what creates a community of happiness. So thank you guys so much for listening. Peace. It's time to wrap this up, and I just want to say very sincerely thank you. You have your choice of thousands of different podcasts that you could be listening to each day, and I appreciate you for choosing this to be one of them. Right now, in this moment, I see the light, I see the love, the wisdom, the beauty, the prosperity, the creativity, and the pure joy that shines within each of you, and I bow humbly before your divinity. Namaste.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.